Hi, today I'm going to tell you about adjectives. If you've seen my videos on nouns, then some of these rules might look familiar. For example, adjectives always end with an A, an N, or a J. Whoa, if you just swap that A for the letter O, you'd be talking about nouns, right? Well, that's because adjectives describe nouns, so they should look similar. For example, if a word ends in A, it's describing a singular subject. AJ describes a plural subject, AN, a singular object, and AJN describes a plural object. Let's look at a few examples. The important thing with Esperanto is that you want to match your adjectives to your nouns. La blua birdo flugas. The blue bird is flying. La bluae birdoi flugas. The blue birds fly. Mi trovis la bluan birdon. I found the blue bird. Now, in English, we would simply say the blue bird, the blue birds. I found a blue bird. In every situation, they're blue, dabadi, dabadai. But in Esperanto, we have to change them to match what they're talking about. Here's an example, though, of an exception to that rule. La blua kai blanka birdoi flugas. The blue and white birds are flying. In this situation, there's only one blue and there's only one white bird, but together they make plural birds. So you are correct in saying la blua, singular, kai blanka, singular, birdoi, plural. Birds fly, okay? Most of the time, though, if the noun ends in a J, the adjective ends in a J. Noun ends with an N, adjective ends with an N. If you saw my video on the A team in Esperanto, you'll know there are some exceptions to the idea that all words ending with the letter A are adjectives. Words like ja or tra or da are really more prepositions than they are adjectives, okay? But they're not the only cases where the letter A doesn't signify an adjective. Here are some other examples. U e a. That's not my impression of a monkey. That is the Universal Esperanto Association. As you see here, these initials are standing for something that does end with an O. So it is allowed to be a subject, even though we don't see the O when we shrink them down and use initials for them. U e a estas bona asocio. La Universala Esperanto Asocio is a good association. In the next example, Sofia manĝas verdan pomon. Sophia is a name you'll see pop up in the Esperanto Duolingo course quite a bit as a sample subject for many of the sentences there. Should it technically be Sofio? Maybe. Just like Maria could technically be Mario, but we usually think of the Mario brothers, not the Mario sisters. So to keep the femininity, we'll often retain the A ending on many of these feminine names. The way I like to think of it, though, isn't an exception, it's more of an omission or elision. La Sofia persono, or la homo nomita Sophia. The person named Sophia, or the Sophia-y person, ate a green apple. You see, we're just trimming out the noun word and describing them with an adjective for their name. Note, though, she ate a green apple. That letter N on verdan keeps us from accidentally thinking that Sophia might be green, okay? Mi amas la anglan. Now, what we're really saying is, I love the English language. But we don't have to put lingvon in there. We can trim that out and just say, mi amas la anglan. Or, mi parolas la francan. I speak French, right? The French language. So that's perfectly acceptable. There is a noun described, it's just trimmed out of this sentence, okay? In this final example, at the very bottom of the page here, ba ba shafo. That's part of the song Ba Ba Black Sheep, right, in Esperanto. That's an example of onomatopoeia, where you're describing the exact sound that something makes. For example, the baby cried, wah. Now, you might spell wah with an A at the end, but is that a noun or an interjection or what? Okay, there are any number. I could say blah and end with an ah, and you'd have to spell all those jumbled letters together with an ah at the end. Okay, it's self-explanatory and easy to tell when someone's doing that, but yes, technically that's a case of something ending in A and not being an adjective. Now let's take a look at how tweaking our adjectives to match nouns, which seems like an extra step, is actually quite helpful and useful in this language. I've mentioned in other videos that Esperanto is a flexible language. You can rearrange the words in a number of orders, and it'll still mean the same thing, and still make sense, and be grammatically sound. For example, la viro alta etan bebon portas. The tall man carries the small baby. Now you have the word alta and etan next to each other. In English, it might be confusing if we did it this way to tell what adjective is describing what. But here, we're not accidentally thinking about a tall baby or a small man. We know that etan matches bebon, so it's a small baby, and we know viro and alta go together, so it's a tall man. So you see that when we want to start jumbling things, we got to have some way to keep things in reach of each other and together for confusion's sake, right? If you're curious how we make things good, better, and best in this language, how we use superlatives, then I want you to think of the American toy, a see and say, right? We here in Esperanto land use the pli and play method to do that job. My song is good sounding or euphonious. Mia canto estas belsona. But if it's more euphonious than yours, we'd say mia canto estas pli belsona ol la via. Oh, wait a second. La via, that ends with an A as well, but it looks like it's a subject. Well, technically, we're saying ol via canto, then your song, but if we stick a la in front of it, we're allowed to turn it into a pronoun, so to speak there, okay? So that's how we do that there. It is more euphonious than yours. And if we want to say it's the best ever, we would say mia canto estas la play belsona. And here's something interesting. In English, we would say he's tall, taller, tallest. We would tweak the adjective. In Esperanto, we leave the adjective belsona alone and we change the words around it. Whereas we leave blue alone when we're talking about the bird or the birds. It's a blue bird, blue birds. And yet in Esperanto, we change blue, blua, bluai, bluon, right? So you leave some things alone and you change other things up. Languages are different and wonderful in that way. In English, we have a tendency to over-rely on our adjectives. Instead of stating how we feel about something or describing what we did, we use adjectives to do it in a roundabout sort of a way. I'm hungry. Hi, hungry, how are you, right? I'm thirsty. I am going to be eating. Okay. That's kind of indirect. And in Esperanto, you don't have to word it like that in order for it to sound natural. You can be more direct. Or, as I like to think of it, you talk like a Viking. I hunger, I thirst, I sup tonight with mine enemies, right? That is what I like to call Norse code. Now, a Norse is a Norse, of course, and no one can talk like a Norse, of course, unless, of course, the name of that Norse is the famous Mr. Red, as in Eric the Red, the father of Leif Erikson and the man who colonized Greenland. Here's our Viking guy to remind us that we don't have to say, I'm hungry, I am fond of eating this kind of food. You don't have to describe yourself that way. You simply say, turn it into a verb and say, mi malsatas, literally, I am full, right? Or mi soifas, I thirst. Unless you're Shakespearean or something like that, or a Klingon or a Viking, you're not going to talk like that, but it's perfectly fine here to do that. Mi trinkos la sangon de miai malamikoi. I will drink the blood of mine enemies. Notice, miai, malamikoi. We know they're describing each other, right? Because they both end with an AJ and an OJ, right? So try to condense your sentences. So you're not saying, mi estas malsata, mi estas soifa. You know, you don't have to add the estas in there all the time. You can shorten it to mi soifas. And believe me, it's perfectly Odin-ary. Thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful day.